So here's a question for you. How can one guy be a national hero to two governments that are, well, bitter rivals? It sounds pretty much impossible, right? But that is the absolutely incredible story of this man, Sun Yat-sen.
So, you've got the People's Republic of China on one side, and on the other, the Republic of China, which you probably know as Taiwan. Now here's the crazy part. Both of them point to the exact same man as a national icon. I mean, this is a figure so important that his legacy is claimed by two totally opposing sides. So how did that happen? Well, to figure it out, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning.
All right, so our story begins, and you might be surprised here, not on some grand battlefield, but in a quiet doctor's office. This is the journey of how a physician, a doctor with a Western education, became the man who would eventually topple an entire dynasty.
You know, when you picture a revolutionary, Sun Yat-sen probably isn't what comes to mind. He was born back in 1866 to a peasant family, but he spent his most important years getting a Western education over in Hawaii. He was learning English, studying Christianity. He was a world away from the China he left. In fact, he came back and graduated as a medical doctor. So his first instinct wasn't to burn everything down. No, he wanted to fix it. He was a reformer at heart.
And this right here is the moment everything changed. In 1894, he poured his heart and soul into this massive 8,000-character petition laying out all his ideas for modernizing China. He sent it to a really powerful Qing official, and what happened? Nothing. He was completely ignored. Can you imagine? For Sun, that rejection was the last straw. The door for reform had just been slammed in his face. The only path left? Revolution.
And let me tell you, he did not waste a single second. He headed straight to Hawaii and founded the Revive China Society. This was the very first organization of its kind, and it had one single, incredibly radical goal: overthrow the Qing Dynasty. He started building his movement from the outside, gathering support from Chinese people living all over the world.
Now, you might think, okay, so he started a society and then came the victory. But no, not even close. Sun's revolutionary career wasn't some quick win. It was a brutal, decades-long grind. We're talking a story of failure after failure, but also incredible persistence, a constant globetrotting search for support.
Just look at this timeline. It really shows you just how much he failed. I mean, again and again and again. In 1895, the first Gwangju uprising. It failed. Plans got leaked. Then in 1900, the Huizu uprising, defeated. Fast forward to 1907, another one. It only lasted 7 days before it fell apart. It was just this relentless series of crushing defeats. But the amazing part, his determination never, ever wavered.
And it wasn't just political failure. His life was in constant, serious danger. Get this. In 1896, while he was in London, he was literally kidnapped by the Chinese Secret Service. They grabbed him, held him at the Chinese legation, and their plan was to smuggle him back to China to be executed. The only reason he survived is because one of his old teachers sounded the alarm, getting the British press and the government involved. It turned into this huge diplomatic crisis that, and this is the ironic part, ended up making him an international celebrity.
This really shows you the truly global nature of his work. That picture? That's one of his revolutionary bases in Penang, Malaysia. Sun spent years just traveling the world. We're talking Japan, the United States, all over. He was fundraising, organizing, all within these overseas Chinese communities. His revolution was a genuinely international effort right from the get-go.
So after all that struggle, all those failures, the breakthrough finally came. And it happened when he least expected it. But, as you're about to see, victory turned out to be just as complicated, just as messy as the long fight to even get there.
Okay, so check this out. On October 10th, 1911, a group of soldiers in a city called Wuchang just mutinied. This wasn't even one of the uprisings Sun had planned. In fact, he was literally halfway across the world in Denver, Colorado trying to raise money. The way he found out his revolution was finally succeeding, he read about it in a newspaper. Can you believe that? But this time, it actually worked. The uprising spread like wildfire, and just like that, it ended over 2,000 years of imperial rule in China.
So, after decades of struggle and exile, Sun Yat-sen finally returned to China as a hero. And on January 1st, 1912, he was elected the very first provisional president of the brand new Republic of China. This was it, the culmination of his entire life's work.
But there was a huge problem. Sun had the moral authority, the revolutionary legitimacy, right? But he didn't have the military muscle. He didn't have an army. The guy who did have the army, the most powerful military force in China, was this man, Yuan Shikai. So to make sure the emperor actually abdicated and to avoid a massive bloody civil war, Sun had to make a really, really difficult choice.
He agreed to step down and hand the presidency over to Yuan Shikai. It was a massive gamble, and it backfired spectacularly. Yuan almost immediately betrayed the ideals of the republic. When Sun's party tried to fight back in what they called a second revolution, they were completely crushed. And just like that, Sun was forced back into exile. His dream of a stable republic, it looked like it was totally shattered.
But here's the thing about Sun Yat-sen. He was more than just a revolutionary plotter. He was a deep political thinker, a philosopher. And it was his core ideology, his big ideas, that would end up being his most lasting legacy.
He basically boiled his entire vision for China down to something called the 3 principles of the people. It's pretty straightforward. First, nationalism. The idea was to unify a fractured China and finally kick out all the foreign powers that were dominating it. Second, democracy. I mean, this was a totally radical idea at the time, but he wanted a government that was actually accountable to the people. And third, livelihood. This was all about making sure people had economic security, ensuring the well-being of every citizen. This was his blueprint for a modern China.
In Chinese, these are called Sanminchui. And these 3 principles, they weren't just an idea on paper. They became the absolute cornerstone of his political party, the Kuomintang, and the guiding vision for the new nation he was so desperate to build.
Sadly, Sun died from cancer in 1925. He passed away long before he could ever see his vision fully realized. And after he was gone, his legacy, well, it got pulled in 2 very, very different directions.
And this is what brings us right back to that question we started with. How can one man be a hero to both sides? Well, in Taiwan, which is the home of the Republic of China, he's revered as the Guofu. That means father of the nation. But over in mainland China, the People's Republic honors him as the Geming Xianjingzhe, the forerunner of the revolution. So you've got 2 totally different titles for the exact same man from 2 rival governments.
See, the way the communists see it, he's the guy who started the whole revolutionary process that they believe they finished. But for the nationalists, he's the founder of their republic. Each side basically interprets his legacy through its own political lens, and each one claims him as their own.
And his final resting place, this absolutely massive mausoleum in Nanjing, really stands as a testament to his monumental importance in history. It's a major site of pilgrimage, and it's become this powerful symbol of that unified China he dreamed of, but sadly, never lived to see.
So, when you look at the whole story, Sun Yat-sen really did achieve the impossible. I mean, he toppled a system of imperial rule that had lasted for millennia. But his ultimate vision, that dream of a unified, democratic, and prosperous China, that's still a work in progress, and its meaning is still fiercely debated to this day. It kind of leaves us with one last big question. Is his revolution actually finished?